So when it comes to this idea of building rockets and starting this company that I want to start building rockets, which strictly speaking I've already started, called Rocket Space Limited, I know from the outset that the most likely outcome of this project is going to be failure. However, I think it's this is how I think I'm going to go about gauging things that I want to do in the future, or this is how I've managed to remain happy with what I'm doing, with things I've done in the past, attempts I've made in the past, for instance, business ventures or writing or anything like this. I've always said, like, if it fails, would you continue doing it nonetheless? Or, like, I think people see this very oblique or very terminal point called failure and think that that's necessarily the end stage of an idea, total failure. um, I think this is something I keep attempting to do in spite of whether or not it fails. I think if it were to fail, which is likely, because it always is likely that new businesses will fail, that's just a statistical, like 1 in 50 new businesses, is it, are successful or something ridiculous like that, or most startups fail, um, which is, yeah, of course, the truth. But is this something I'd continue doing irrespective of the chances of failure? Yes, it is. It is something I'd continue doing or trying to do. And I think it's a worthwhile pursuit. I think it's a well-intentioned pursuit. I think pushing forward the cause of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, these sorts of things, I think it's worth doing. I certainly think it's worth doing. And I've got novel and innovative ideas, I think, which haven't really marked out their territory quite yet in rocketry, but it's getting there. Ideas such as using thermoplastics for the casings of the rockets and so on. So I'm going to go for this. I'm going to get out this 25k business loan from the British Business Bank. I expect about half of it will go on office space / workshop space, and the office will have to function as a workshop also, and somewhere for me to live. Yeah. So it's not an easy road by any stretch of the imagination. No new venture is really, and I've learned that much in my time doing all this sort of thing. I started this political social media platform when I was 24, I think. An idea I had when I was 22. Finally started at 24 after having told loads of people about it. I started a publishing house, which I could have kept going, actually, I think. And it wasn't a total failure. I just didn't believe in it enough to get out the 25k business loan for that reason. And then this rockets idea came along. And I'm like, oh, well, I should do this instead. And that was very much my thinking on that point. So I don't think, the publishing house wasn't a failure anyway. It wasn't a failure. I was publishing my own book, but I managed to get the book printed and out there. I got it in ISBN and everything. I took a raw material, a manuscript, and turned it into a product that could be sold, a book. That is publishing. That's what publishers do. And even with that idea, it might have more potential still. It might be able to get into Waterstones maybe one day or something like that. Maybe it needs a little bit more editing, just a touch more editing, but still. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I think so long as failure doesn't come about for bad reasons, if you know what I mean, like laziness or ineptitude. And really, the reasons I failed, I think, don't come down to laziness or ineptitude so much as they come down to, well, just bad luck. And really the times we're living in, possibly also, which kind of feed into the whole bad luck thing, since we're still really kind of biting through austerity in Britain after the 2008 financial crisis. And, people don't like lending money to anyone, let alone start-up companies. So, yeah, I think the chances of success are always limited to some extent, but if I can, the first stage of the business idea would be to get a model of the rocket built, and then use the model also made of plastic as the external casings of the rocket and install a carbon fiber airframe into it. Those would be the first and second stages of the idea. Then build the engines, then build the fuel tanks, and then equip it with a guidance system and so on. And I'm wondering how easy that would be to do for £10,000, which is roughly what I imagine I'd be left with after purchasing the office space or leasing the office space. And after a bit of money here and there, things like insurance and, well, spare cash, if you know what I mean, a sort of sinking fund. So it gives me £10,000 to play with, I think, leaving £5,000 in reserve for insurance and sinking fund, etc., and £10,000 for the office space. I think it can be done. I just have to be very, very nice to some people who are capable of building rocket engines, or, you know, people who have the equipment to build them, such as forges and 3D printers and so on. But then again, I know people who can do this. I know blacksmiths and metal workers and things like this from Plumpton College who very possibly could build a rocket engine, or certainly would have the contacts necessary for me to be able to get in touch with people who can build one and then build it. So I think there's resources at my disposal, not necessarily financial resources, but human resources that I can utilize to try and make this project happen. So it could be a very good thing. It could be a fantastic thing, I think. And yeah, let's see. We'll see how it goes.